All right, buckle up, football fans. You can almost taste the opening day excitement, especially with their kickoff game against the Baltimore Ravens just around the corner.
It absolutely is, and right from the start, your material highlights the leadership foundation. Josh Allen, named captain for his seventh straight year, earning the C, a truly remarkable run, and Terrell Bernard's right there with him, getting the C for the second season in a row. It speaks volumes, really, about their consistent
It
influence.
really does. And kind of go behind the scenes of the Bills' recently finalized 53-man roster. Our mission today, cut through the noise, uncover the meticulous decisions, spotlight some surprising inclusions you highlighted, understand the tough cuts, and ultimately grasp the overarching themes defining this roster as they gear up. Think of this as your inside track, to understanding the fabric of this team.
Exactly. We're dissecting this roster, looking at the talent, the strategy, the difficult calls, all through the lens of the info you provided.
Okay, so with that leadership locked in, let's actually crack open this 53-man roster. Because my first reaction, reading through the details in your sources, and I think many would agree, when this team is healthy, we're talking about a level of talent we haven't seen since the glory days of those Super Bowl runs. Some are even calling it maybe the most talented Bills roster in decades, top to bottom. That's a huge statement.
It is a strong view, yeah. And what's particularly insightful from your material is that strategic blend. Veterans and rookies, you see a clear infusion of youth, athleticism, pedigree, top to bottom. This isn't just raw talent, it's a calculated bet.
Mhm.
Given the Bills' Super Bowl window with Allen, this injection of younger players suggests they're aggressively addressing future cap stuff while maximizing their immediate edge. It's a high wire act.
So for you, our listener, tracking their Super Bowl hopes, what does this mix tell us about their immediate potential and their future? Is this a win-now team or more built for sustained success?
Well, it suggests a team designed to compete at the highest level right now, definitely, but also one built for resilience. The blend means they can maybe absorb injuries, mid-season slumps, without completely derailing things. The rookies add a dynamic layer that can really pay dividends as the season goes on. It's a roster that, when healthy, has very few obvious weaknesses. Looks like they're going all in for now while subtly future-proofing a bit.
That's the big picture, but the devil's always in the details. Looking at the positional breakdowns in your notes, I noticed a very distinct weight. Heavy in one area, kind of lean in another. What's the story there?
Yeah, you picked up on a key point. The initial 53 is noticeably heavy at D-line. They've kept 5 ends and 5 tackles initially, and that's before you even factor in Michael Hoach and Larry Ogunjobi coming back from suspension later. But on the flip side, yeah, pretty light at linebacker, only 5 guys there. So that raises a question for us, right? Why so heavy on the line, and what's it mean for the linebackers?
Right. What's the thinking behind that imbalance? Is it where they see the talent, or maybe how they'll use guys on special teams, or are they just setting up for future tweaks?
It's likely a combination, I think. But mostly, that heavy investment in the D-line points to a philosophy, right? Controlling the line of scrimmage. Just winning that battle up front, getting pressure, stuffing the run. They want a constant rotation of fresh guys. For the linebackers, keeping only 5 suggests, well, a belief in the versatility and durability of those 5, especially on special teams. It also hints at flexibility. Teams often tweak those leaner spots early on, maybe bring someone up from the practice squad, depending on the matchup.
Okay, that makes sense. Maximize impact where you see the most leverage. Now, let's dive into some specific decisions because the why behind who made it is often really revealing. Let's start with backup QB. Mitchell Trubisky got the nod over Shane Buechele and Mike White. Your sources really highlighted why he was the clear choice.
Yeah, what's compelling here is Trubisky genuinely had a much better camp this summer, compared to last year. Showed improved decision making, rediscovered a lot of his mobility, better velocity on his throws too. But critically, his skill set is closer to Josh Allen. So if, heaven forbid Allen gets hurt, Joe Brady doesn't have to totally overhaul the game plan. Trubisky allows for more consistency, which is a huge plus for a backup.
That continuity point is really strong.
Yeah.
But is it like a flawless strategy? Or does it maybe limit their options if Allen's style gets predictable and they don't have a different look from the backup?
That's a fair point, yeah. While continuity is good, it does mean they're less likely to pivot to something completely different if Trubisky has to play a lot. But given their identity, the bet is that maintaining their offense, even with the backup, is more valuable than having some wildly different option who might need a whole new playbook. They're choosing consistency.
Makes sense. Okay, now here's a real surprise from your notes. Veteran linebacker Shaq Thompson. Making the squad, especially with only 5 LBs. I mean, 11 months off an Achilles. Wow. You almost wonder if the coaches pulled out a whiteboard just for him during cuts. What a story.
It truly is remarkable, and his inclusion was definitely a surprise, yeah, but his performance in camp just made it undeniable. Thompson brings veteran leadership, great instincts, and he showed incredible recovery, just amazing athleticism less than a year after that surgery. The way he was making plays, hitting people, it was clear he could still plug in and play at a high level. His ability to do that despite the injury, that's testament to his dedication. He really earned that spot against the odds.
Speaking of surprising breakouts, how about Tyrell Shavers? Wide receiver, 2 seasons on the practice squad, then earns his spot of the 53. What was his journey like, and what did your sources highlight? Shavers' story is a really compelling one. Perseverance, marked improvement. Your notes emphasizes big development and releases off the line. That helped him get separation, become reliable. He led the team in preseason receiving yards, 123, averaged over 20 yards a catch, had that long 58-yarder. But what really sealed it? Those 2 back-to-back plays in the finale, leaping one-handed TD catch, then runs 40 yards across the field on kickoff to make a tackle, save a potential TD return. That kind of effort, that's exactly what earns you a spot on a contender. Those are the plays coaches remember. Okay, and then Brandon Codrington retained the primary returner role, handling both kicks and punts, despite competition from guys like Laviska Shenault, who got cut.
Correct. Last year, Codrington was almost, a necessity, picked up right before cuts. This year, your sources indicate he faced real competition. Numbers were kind of comparable in preseason, but Codrington's consistent ability to handle both kick and punt returns gave him the edge over Shenault, who was mainly a kick returner. So the Bills opted for the second-year guy, averaged nearly 12 yards per punt return and almost 28 on kicks last year, solidified his role with that dual threat flexibility.
Okay. Now, looking at the rookies, the 2025 draft class really made an impact. Seems like a lot of them earned spots, which is always good to see. Who stood out among the new faces, according to your materials?
Yes, the draft class did quite well. Defensive tackles TJ Sanders and Deone Walker showed immense potential, could be a really menacing duo inside. Defensive end Landon Jackson also made steady progress through preseason. On offense, tight end Jackson Hawes was praised specifically for his blocking, expected to fill that third TE role. And what's more, injuries actually gave guys like Jordan Hancock, Chase Lunt, and Dorian Strong way more reps than they might have gotten otherwise. That let them really advance their games and make the cut.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because things don't always go to plan. Let's talk setbacks. We've got players heading to IR with designation to return, eligible week 5. Cornerback Maxwell Hairston, first-rounder, knee sprain. Offensive tackle Tylen Grabel, still in concussion protocol. What's the impact of those early absences? And for our listener, what exactly does IR with designation to return mean anyway?
Good question. So IR with designation to return basically means a player can come back after missing just 4 games. They're not out for the whole season. These moves are strategic. For Hairston, first-round talent missing the first 4 games hurts that early cornerback depth, which was already maybe a bit of a concern. They hoped he'd be ready. Seems he wasn't close. For Grabel, it gives him the time he needs to fully recover from what sounds like a pretty serious concussion. The upside is they can come back week 5, preserving talent for later. And the team's tackle depth, with Vandermark and rookie Chase Lunt, should help absorb Grabel's absence for a bit.
So it's about playing the long game with key talent. Got it. And then there are the reserve suspended guys, Michael Hooch, DE, and Larry Ogunjobi, DT. Both eligible week 8. How do these midseason returns affect the picture, especially given what we said about that D-line being so stacked?
This is where that D-line strength really becomes ferocious and unrelenting, as you put it. Even without Hooch and Ogunjobi for 7 games, your sources suggest the D-line is already seen as maybe the best of the McDermott era. When those 2 return in week 8, it'll be like adding 2 more high-impact starters to an already scary unit. This strategy lets the Bills just come at offenses in waves, constantly rotating fresh, powerful guys. It's kind of like what the Eagles did so well last year. It suggests a relentless approach to controlling the line all game long. For you, the listener, this means the Bills' pass rush could become almost unbearable for teams in the second half of the season.
That is a scary thought for opposing offenses. Okay, now, the other side of the coin. We have to acknowledge McDermott and Beane faced some genuinely brutal decisions. Trimming more than 30 players, never easy. What do your sources tell us about the most notable cuts and what they signify?
Yeah, these weren't just tough decisions. They really reflect the intense competition on a team aiming for a Super Bowl. Releasing both Buechele and White, for instance, speaks volumes about how well Trubisky played in camp and the team's focus on continuity behind Allen. They weren't keeping 3 QBs. Another significant one, Laviska Shenault, competed for the returner job, but Codrington's ability on both punt and kick won out. And letting go of a reliable vet like cornerback Dane Jackson, that really underscores the trust they have in the younger guys pushing through in the secondary. It's a calculated risk, given the depth concerns there. These aren't cuts of bad players. They're cuts of good players who just didn't fit the strategy or couldn't beat out the depth. It highlights the incredibly high bar to make this Bills team.
So what does this all mean when we look at the recurring themes, a bigger picture of this 2025 Bills roster? For me, the first thing jumping out from your materials is that clear youth movement, the enhanced athleticism we touched on.
Absolutely. That's a critical theme, and your sources really underscore it. The Bills are noticeably younger this year, and they've added significant speed, significant athleticism across the board. Players like Keon Coleman, Hairston when he's back, Hancock, Strong, Sanders, Walker. Prime examples of this infusion. This isn't just raw talent. It's about adding dynamic playmakers who can lift the team's overall speed. That's huge in today's NFL, especially against the elite offenses they'll see.
And hand in hand with that, we have to underscore the defensive line prowess. You called it ferocious. Sounds like it might be the best in the McDermott era, even before Hoach and Ogunjobi get back.
Indeed. The depth and talent there are exceptional. We're talking about a unit that can apply constant pressure, stuff the run, come in waves, just tire out O-lines. With guys like Bosa and Rousseau leading and then adding Hoach and Ogunjobi mid-season, this unit is built to be a game wrecker. It creates a domino effect for the whole defense, makes life easier for linebackers, for the secondary. So here's a question for you, the listener. How many double-digit sack guys could this D-line actually produce this year, and how does that shift the entire dynamic of their defense?
That's an exciting thought. Could truly define their season. Finally, we saw a lot of roster gymnastics, flexibility in action, keeping 5 tackles, using those IR splits. What does that tell us about the team's strategic management? And are there any risks involved in being that flexible?
It tells you they're incredibly adept at maximizing player potential, navigating the league rules. Keeping 5 tackles initially, despite tight space, shows they value depth and development there. Crucial spot. And the strategic use of IR for Hairston and Grable ensures premium talent isn't lost for the year, but gets time to heal and contribute later. The risk, of course, is those guys don't return as expected, or maybe the short-term depth they sacrificed creates an early vulnerability. But this flexibility ultimately shows a clear, forward-thinking vision for managing the roster through the grind of an NFL season.
So to recap this deep dive into your materials, the Bills' 53-man roster for 2025 is a meticulously constructed blend. Veteran leadership, promising youth, strategically deep, especially that monster D-line, and managed with a clear vision for navigating challenges. It's a roster built with the Super Bowl firmly in mind, drawing right from the insights you shared.
Absolutely.